All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of Deck Codes. My name is SamSeesGhosts, and I am joined by my co-host AxelK. Axel, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I've been playing a lot of Hearthstone today, so I am just excited about talking about it.
So before we get into what this podcast is, why don't you just introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and why you're so awesome?
Why I'm so awesome? Well, as we said before, my name is AxelK, and I make Hearthstone videos on YouTube. I kind of try to make them uh, a little more edited than most other content out there, and I try to bring some pretty juicy guide parts in the beginning of the videos. So I think that you should check that out if you want to become a little better at Hearthstone.
Axel has been putting in work, and his videos are awesome. I can attest that. Every time I've collaborated with him, it's just been a really fun experience. So I don't think you guys will regret checking out Axel. So go leave him a subscription. I will drop his channel in the description below. My name is SamSeesGhosts. I've been taking a bit of a break from YouTube, but I do more competitive content. I ramble on Twitter about Hearthstone, and I just put out gameplay and game guide videos, which will be ramping back up during Uniting Stormwind. So guys, if you want to keep up with the podcast and my own channel, leave a subscription below. It's always appreciated. But let's get into this. What is this podcast? Well, Deck Codes is a way for Axel and I to really dive into a specific deck, what makes the deck work, why it's good, why we enjoy playing it, and just really talk about it for a little bit. And it's something that we've been messaging each other on Twitter about, and we just thought it was a good time as any to kind of dive into the discussion podcast realm of things and talk about some fun Hearthstone decks. So before we do get into this, though, Axel, you say you've been playing a lot of Hearthstone. What have you been playing? What have you been doing on ladder?
So, like today and yesterday, I've been playing a lot of big Demon Hunter. And it's actually the best list, like when it comes to Demon Hunter, it's the list that has been working out the best for me. Which is kind of strange, but I think it's because it's a lot of mages and priests on ladder right now. So they kind of, they don't play anything. So you can just kind of do whatever you want. You just put your big boys down, and the big one that increases the mana cost of spells.
The Taint Heart Tormentor.
Yes, that's my man. Like, so good. It's good to get them out early. Like you play, what's it called? The Fell Screamer, and then you drop that on 6.
The 4/4, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty insane, and it's a lot of fun.
Do you play Pit Commander in that deck, or do you top out in a Zoth?
No, I play Pit Commander. I go big. I go big demons.
My issue with that deck was that I always want to pull Ildari Inquisitor, and whenever I would pull like the Pit Commander, I'd be like, oh, it's not the same. I want to hit him in the face for 9.
So yeah, the Inquisitor, that's the good card. However, since I've played it so much in other Demon Hunters, I never want to see that. I'm like, I want to do fun things. Like, I want to do different things. But it's definitely, like, the best card, right?
I can't believe Inquisitor, its text should just say, charge, Wind Fury, Battle Cry, can only attack heroes once this turn. Because that's what it is. It has Wind Fury, it has charge. It's a nutty card.
Yeah, but it's not too OP, which is weird.
It's really close. I will be surprised if it's in the core set next year. I don't think it will be, but I could be wrong.
I mean, they can't give Demon Hunter more, weapon damage then. Because that's going to be insane. Like, you can't be hit for 10 and then an Illidari Inquisitor as well.
Okay, this video has to be about Rush Warrior, but I will say Demon Hunter is going to look very different next year without Skull of Gul'dan. I don't think that's going in the core set. So Demon Hunter is going to look very different. As for myself, I got to Legend a few weeks, like a week and a half ago, with Rush Warrior, which is part of the reason why we're talking about Rush Warrior today. And when I got to Legend, I was going to play more Rush Warrior. Then those priest nerfs happened, and I played some Death Rattle Demon Hunter, had a little bit of success with it. But then I climbed from 3,300 to, I think I'm around 1,700 right now with Clown Druid. That deck is really good right now.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a big one.
It's like if you just get guardian animals out, it's most likely you're gonna win that game. Like that card is just so good.
Yeah.
That card used to cost 7 mana.
Yeah. I don't think that I played the game while it costed 7 mana actually.
That would it was bad because you could just overgrowth right into it. Like it came down on turn 5. It was ridiculous.
I mean, you can still get it down early.
You can bloom. You can it's such a nut. The deck is good. Like it's really good right now. And we'll talk a little bit more about it in its relation to Rush Warrior as we go on. But yeah, no, my goal this season is to get 11x. I think I'm about 400 or 500 away from being able to camp and then kind of just get into 11x at the end of the season in case I go on a massive losing streak.
Yeah, I hope you're gonna get it. I think so.
I got 1500 the week Barrens came out, and I did not get 11x. I was pretty upset about that. Not upset. I was just bummed, but
I always start the season at like 1k, and then I end it at like 12k. So, it's good stuff.
But yeah, let's get into Rush Warrior.
Yes.
So, Axel, why don't you, since you did a video on this, everyone should go check it out. I'll leave that in the description below too. Why don't you kind of give people a general run through on what Rush Warrior is?
Okay, so it's definitely like a strange deck because looking at it, as you said before to me, it looks kind of like an arena deck. It has a lot of like valuable, good minions that you presume that you just put down and then you kind of try to maintain your board and then you win the game, right?
Yeah.
But it's not always that simple because it turns out that a deck that doesn't really run any card draw or like very little card draw, it's hard for it to compete sometimes with other decks that run so much card draw, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. Sorry, keep going ahead. I have an analogy, but I'll say it after you're done.
So kind of what you have to do with this is that you have to kind of think of your minions a little bit like spells, right? You kind of want to use them to react to your opponent's boards, and I don't know, since it's so punishing for you to lose your board, you kind of want to sit on your cards a lot, and that's where cards like the hand buff stuff comes in. What's he called? Overlord Runtak.
Yep. And
conditioning.
Conditioning. Yep.
Yeah. So you kind of want to use use those cards to keep your minions healthy in your hand, right? And then you can use them to react to your opponent. And when you hit late game, you're gonna have like Troublemakers and Alexstrasza's to close out the game. So I guess that's kind of a long way of saying you're kind of a mixture between a mid-range and a control deck almost. That still want to get some tempo, and then when you're in the late game, you kind of drop minions that are just too much for your opponent to deal with.
Yeah.
That's kind of my take on Rush Warrior.
I like the idea of minions as spells because they kind of are. Like you want to use them to stick around on the board and make sure you have minions to do things with, and then kind of overwhelm your opponents. When I first started playing the Watch Post version, I posted on Twitter like I don't understand how this deck is tier 1 because according to Vicious Syndicate, the most recent report is tier 1. I always kind of felt like I was running out of resources. A buddy of mine, Hunt the Snark, replied and said, "It's a good deck, but you need to be able to understand when you're going to be initiative focused, tempo focused, or hold back and be a little bit greedy and go for more value."
Yeah, and I think that's so hard to know. And I think for players around my level, so I'm all over the ladder in Legend. Like I truly am. Like one day I'm 6k, one day I'm like 2k, next day I'm 12k, right? So in my skill level, I think I'm kind of average for a Legend player. And it's really hard for people at my skill level to really grasp this deck. And myself, obviously. Because you need, I guess, kind of such a solid foundation when it comes to this game, like how trading works. and how initiative works, that I think that a lot of people in kind of my skill range haven't really grasped that, because there are no crutches to rely on this deck.
Yeah. I was talking to someone else and they said, by turn 5, when I want to play my conditioning, I'm out of cards. And
Yes.
there are cards that you want to hold on to. We can get into those right now. Like the bumper card tokens. You don't just play those. You wait till they can get buffed, or you can copy them with your playmaker, or buff them with parade leader. This deck doesn't have a lot of card draw, so the sooner, especially in more value focused matchups, the sooner you can get Watley down, the better. Watley is such a powerful card. And then Rokara. Like, very rarely do you ever want to play Rokara on 3. There are times that it is the right play, especially against decks that you need to be aggressive of, but Rokara is such a good way to close out the game, especially if you can copy her, or you have minions on board that are going to get buffed and stay on board to kill the opponent with the next turn. Rokara is like the best card in this deck.
Yeah, and she kind of gives you that thing I was talking about, where you put your opponent in this position where it's just too much to deal with.
Right. And ETC is another really interesting card to use, because I think a lot of people, myself included, so obviously a lot of people, but no, it's really, I think I get in the trap of wanting to save ETC for this big burst turn with the tokens and my playmaker. But if I just play ETC on a board and I have 2 rush minions, I'm making value trades and sending 4 face. Like, that's just a good
I
turn.
totally agree. I think he's Yeah, I totally agree. I think he's such a... It's easy to kind of get lost in this OTK fantasy that you want to set up.
That's because we spent last year with ETC doing OTK stuff. But you just wanna make sure that he can get some chip damage in. That's what your minions essentially do. It's little bits of chip damage that add up over time, and then you kill them usually with Alexstrasza if you get to that point. Sometimes you don't need Alexstrasza.
Yeah, I think Troublemaker is like the big fat end game.
Yeah, if you can drop Troublemaker on an empty board, it's such a powerful play.
Yeah, and that's kind of what my strategies always rely on. Like I really I value Troublemaker so much. That's kind of he is kind of the card in the deck that keeps me sane. Like, I can build a strategy around this card.
Yeah. I think that's the reason this deck works so well, is because I think the hand buff stuff is really powerful. Just a note to anyone playing, don't play Conditioning as a rank 1 spell.
No.
Save it for +2/+2. I played a mirror on my way to Legend, and my opponent played Conditioning on 2 and then lost the game because I played Conditioning on 5 and my minions were just stronger. I had more minions. Yep. I had more stats. Conditioning is such a pivotal card on turn 5. So just be aware of that.
I think I've never ever, it was the first thing that I learned about this deck is Conditioning comes down on 5.
Yeah, it's save Conditioning, save Runthak. Also for as late as you can, around 5. Obviously he costs 5 mana, but I don't really think coining him out. And if any player listening to this plays Watley after playing Conditioning, so you don't buff the minions that you're drawing, I'm going to reach through your headphones and slap you, because that's the incorrect play.
Yeah. There's one really good card that I just want to touch on. Yep. It's the Imprisoned Gnarg.
That card's a sleeper. That card's really good.
Yes, and it has so many things going for it. It's a body on board, and it gives you the axe, obviously, and it's a demon.
Yeah, that's something we can talk about right now, and then we'll get into the different kind of decks. Axel and I were talking before this. Tent Trasher may be my favorite card in this deck, because like Axel was saying, the Imprisoned Gnarg is a demon, so once it awakens, it discounts Tent Trasher. So if you go on turn 1 Gnarg, and then bumper cars, which usually doesn't die on 2, you can get a 5/5/10 Trasher on 3. It's so good.
Yeah, and that's also, I think, why the 10th Thresher is usually kind of... it has kind of a high win rate in the mulligan. And it's if you get the Gnarg down and the bumper cars.
I wouldn't keep Trasher in the opening for most matchups. I really like pulling Trasher off of Stage Dive, which is such a good card. Like, Stage Dive is great.
Yeah.
But
I mean...
there's... Yep, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, but however, like, it's just kind of a note, because when I looked for, like, the win rates, I saw the 10th Thresher was strangely high, and it took me some time to figure out why it was so high in the mulligan.
I didn't realize it was so high. I have to look back at the HS replay stats.
I don't think it's in the green, but I think it's kind of up there.
It's definitely one of those dependence keeps. If you have the ability to get it out on 3 or 4, keep it. But if your hand has no way to get it out for cheap, send it back.
Yeah. Do you think... but yeah, so one more thing about the imprisoned Gnarg, right?
Yes.
It's very satisfying if you're like me and you like to go face and play aggro decks. Since it curves out so well with the Sword Eater, you can just slam that axe as much as you want, because you're gonna be in that position where the weapons are overlapping a lot. So I think it's totally fine to just swing that axe the moment you get it.
Sword Eater is such a good card.
Yeah.
And like you said, you get the axe on 3, swing on 3, swing on 4, play the taunt, get another weapon. It's just so much weapon damage in this deck.
Yes.
This deck has a lot of like we were saying, it looks like an arena deck. There's a lot of different outlets for how this deck can play out that you kind of have to be aware of.
Yeah, and it's kind of that chip damage, right? Let's say we live in the perfect world and all of those weapons hit face. That's 12 damage. Like, that's half his HP.
That's 24. Oh,
No,
all the weapons, those 2 weapons, not all the weapons in the deck.
Yeah. If you just curve out like 1, 2, 3, 4, I guess.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
Because half the HP are just gone there.
And you also have to remember they're playing on 22 HP basically, because Alex Strauss is in this deck.
Yes.
It just ends the game most times.
Yeah, so it's kind of the little things.
So there are 3 versions of this deck that we're gonna talk about 2 of them. We're gonna touch on the 3rd one, which we both agree is not very good, but it's worth mentioning and why it was played for a bit. There's the vanilla version, which Axel did a video on. Again, that is in the description below. There's the Watch Pose version, which I took to Legend. Really like that deck. And then for a hot minute, there was the Sour Fang Rush Warrior, which has kind of fallen out of favor. And we will touch on why that is the case. Yep. But on HS Replay, Rush Warrior has about a 57% win rates, and it's about 40% of all Warrior decks. I'm guessing there's a lot of Control Warriors in the game now, too.
Yes. It's pretty good right now. It's decent.
Control Warrior, because Druids are so popular, Control Warrior can kind of go with them. But also, Priest not being a deck right now is really good for other control decks, especially Warrior.
Yeah.
On the Vicious Syndicates, which I do recommend everyone check out, because they are such great content, such a great resource. Rush Warrior in all the brackets from Diamond 5 to Diamond 1 to Legend and top 1K Legend. Rush Warrior is in Tier 1 about at a 52-53% win rate consistently in those brackets.
Yeah. So it's like one of the best.
I would say that this is probably the best deck in the format right now. There are some bad matchups, but I'm looking at the VS matchup list, and there's not a ton of red. There's some red, but if you want to play this deck to Legend, you're going to be pretty successful. Or if you want to play this deck in Legend, you'll be successful, I think.
Yes. And absolutely don't give up, because when I picked, I was pulling my hair when I tried to learn this. It's the most, I'm going to say it, it's the hardest deck that I've ever played. I think it's so hard to understand how to play this.
It's definitely a deck that rewards you sitting down and taking the time to figure out, like we were talking about, those nuanced plays of, is this the right time to play the Playmaker or the Rakara? How am I getting the most out of my minions that I'm playing? And how am I killing the opponent? Where's the chip damage coming from? It's really rewarding to learn.
Yes, definitely. And the feeling when you get ahead, it's so like... really feels like you are kind of choking your opponent out. Like they can't do anything. They try to develop and bam, there comes another rush and like a buffed rush minion that is ridiculously inexpensive, right? So you have the tokens from Bumper Car. Like they can get huge sometimes.
When this deck gets ahead, it stays ahead pretty well. Even if it falls behind, because rush is such a good mechanic, it can come back pretty easily too.
Yeah.
So I want to touch on the matchups real quick. And
Yes.
like I said, the VS Vicious Syndicate report, most of your matchups are green. I would say your best matchups, for at least from anecdotal experience, are Elemental Shaman, Miracle Rogue, both the Paladin decks, and Face Hunter. I would say those are the best. You can kind of keep ahead of them on board. Shaman is actually a really interesting matchup for me because if they get ahead on board too early, like they can snowball with their elementals, they can win that game.
Yep.
But if you can keep them at bay for the first 4 or 5 turns, your minions just have so much more stats. They have more value. You kind of just keep them off the board. Their burn doesn't really matter because most of the time they're sending at your minions to try and take the board back. It's just a really it's a fun matchup, but it's a good way to learn the deck, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it's you definitely have the opportunity to play it now because everybody is playing Elemental Shaman.
Yes, Elemental Shaman's pretty good right now.
I think especially in
except
like,
the Warrior.
Yeah, and also kind of that is one of the reasons. Also, if you look at the positive matchups, it's one of the reasons why this is so good in Diamond.
Yeah.
Like before, it was very favored against Token Druid. I mean, it's even more favored now, but nobody plays it. You know, Token Druids, Hunters, Elemental Shamans. Ooh.
Yeah, I looked at the Diamond 4 to Legend matchups, and you're not going to see a bunch of... you might see some Clowns, but I don't think you'll see a bunch of Jombre. You're not going to see much Control Priest or Control Warrior in those brackets. So you're pretty good from Diamond 4 to Legend if you can take this deck and run with it.
Yep.
As for your 50-50 matchups, I think the big one here is Death Rattle Demon Hunter. And I think that's a bit surprising because, like Shaman, Elemental Shaman, it's a board-based deck. But the difference is when you kill one of their minions, another one comes out, and that just keeps happening.
Yep.
So they can really go 50-50 on board with you. And then if they put down a Blackthorn is such a good card. That usually ends a lot of games, unfortunately. But go ahead.
and they also kind of have this thing like, let's say you're trading evenly, right?
Yeah.
And then turn 6 hits. You don't have card draw, and he has the best card draw in the entire game. So they have Skull cooldown.
Yeah. That card costs -3.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It's just hard to keep up, even though kind of listening to what we've said and kind of from playing it, it feels like it should work out, but it's a really tough one.
You have to really hope that you can deal with the initial minion and the minion that comes out. And I've thought about it a bit. There's different layers of stickiness. Ace Hunter Kreen is so good in that matchup. Because you just trade all your minions. You have to kill the Kreen, kill the minions on board, and then more minions come out. It's just such a good... It's so hard for Warrior to kind of keep up with that relentlessness.
Yeah.
And then for the unfavored... The big one I want to touch on is Clown Druid. I think this is probably more in the Legend ranks. I think Clown Druid is a little more popular because there's a lot of Face Hunter on the road from Diamond to Legend.
Yes.
But the issue with Clown Druid, and this comes from my own experience, is that unless you can aggro them down quickly, they're gonna ramp up, do guardian animal things, draw a bunch of cards, play the Primordial Protector, get a Deathwing, and then play Survival of the Fittest, and then you're gonna die to a board of clowns.
Yeah, like there's just nothing you can do against the clowns. You don't have anything, like you don't have a full board wipe. You have to work really hard for everything. So kind of taking down 1/8/8 is like hard enough sometimes. You know, maybe you have to go for that old school OTK ETC play if the stars really align.
Yeah. Like, I know we said, you just have to be very aggressive, and that means your value doesn't mean a lot. So you can play those parade leaders on 2, or the playmakers on 3, and just hopefully just hit them a bunch in the face. So by the time they do get to those turns, you just have the damage to finish it off.
Yeah,
but that matchup is so hard. But that said, Control Priest has because of the nerfs, Control Priest is less prevalent. The Apotheosis is not as damaging anymore, so you are a bit more favored into Priest. Vicious Syndicate says it's about a 50-50. Still more inclined to say you're probably unfavored, but it's not as unwinnable as it felt before.
Yeah, it definitely felt unwinnable. And obviously, it's Rush Warrior. Rush is the keyword. You're gonna struggle against things that doesn't play, like decks that doesn't play minions.
Yeah.
Because your Rush minions are just kind of...
control decks... Oh, sorry, you cut out for a second. Can you repeat that?
So the thing about Rush is that it's just gonna be kind of a weirdly statted minion if you can't rush it into anything. And that the only thing that you can rush it into is like a Venomous Scorpion. And that just feels bad. So it's kind of hard to develop. And it's hard to deal with those Scorpions. And it's really hard to deal with... all the board clear. Soul Mirror and I don't even know.
Soul Mirror on your Troublemaker is the worst, and then the Apotheosis at the next turn, and it's just too much.
Yeah, definitely.
But we're gonna get into our experiences with the decks. I'm gonna let Axel kind of take on the vanilla. Since he did a video on that, and I'm gonna talk primarily on the posts. But because we have experience with those decks, we'll kind of jump in where we feel. Axel, what is your experience with the vanilla list? Like, what are the why?
As I said,
if
a lot of sadness
if I was gonna play from Diamond 5 to Legend, why would you recommend this deck?
Okay, so obviously it's a hard one. So I think that if you're usually in Diamond, and okay, so it's kind of weird now since we have an expansion, but let's just pretend that the expansion got delayed 1 month, right? So you're usually in Diamond and you can't really get to Legend. I think that this would be like the opportunity, like in the end of the season, to just sit and lose a bunch of games with this, because it's so good against everything that is in Diamond. Like, as I said before, it was Token Druids. It's anything aggressive. You're just gonna eat that up, and that is why you sort of should learn this if you want a really smooth climb. And obviously, some control decks are fine. You know, everything beats Warlock. So, and you're gonna see a ton of that as well. So it's very favored against anything in Diamond. But as I said, it's kind of hard and tricky to play.
I think you touched on something really good there, not just for Rush Warrior, but for learning decks in general. Sometimes you need to lose a few games to figure out what's going on with the deck.
Yeah, definitely.
I did that with Bomb Warrior a few expansions ago, and I love that. I really enjoyed playing that deck after I lost my games and learned how to play the deck.
Yeah, same. I even hit Legend with Bomb Warrior as a super aggro player back then.
Whew.
Yeah, it's good.
What? So keep going. No.
Yeah. So I already spoke a little bit about kind of the game plan and what makes the deck hard and what makes it good. But I kind of want to talk about some fun combos. And
before you do that, though, could you just tell? So there's about 5 different cards in the deck. let's talk about those cards first, and then you can talk
Yes.
about some combos. So
Yeah.
what are the different cards in this deck from the Watch Post version?
So, okay, I think you're gonna have to help me out here, but
Yep.
it's Crab Rider, right?
Yep,
You have two of them.
two Crab Riders.
Yes, you have Archdruid Narlex
Yep, one of those.
and Wormhole Challenger.
Yep, I think those are the 5 different ones. There might be one other one, but I think those are the 5.
Yeah, I think those are like the big ones.
Yeah. So
Crab, yeah,
I was gonna ask about Crab Rider. Like, why are we playing Crab Rider? It got nerfed.
yeah. I think honestly, I think that there's just nothing better. It's not really super good. You can use it to get ahead, and it's really good to pair with like parade leaders. And when you have the buff from conditioning on it, it's gonna be a beast to just kind of clear in the beginning. But I don't think it's a super good card in the deck right now. It's all right.
Yeah, it's definitely we have the smallest card pool right now. We need rush minions, and this is a good rush minion. It is a comeback card. It is I've lost the board, but I've conditioned my Crab Rider, so now it's a 3/6. It's gonna clear minions off the board.
Yeah. So I think that this might just be here because it's kind of you take what you have, and it fits really well, and you can make some really great plays with it. Like I think it kind of helps you out since you struggle with card draw. You can use it for the value, I guess. So you can use it to clear 2 minions. That's it. Like a spell that clears 2 minions.
Yeah, I agree with that. But what about Narlax? Narlax is dormant. He doesn't do anything when turn he's played. He can't trade.
Well, I think that Narlax makes this deck easier to understand because you can get those Emerald Drakes, and it's really simple. You can, like, for a second forget that you're playing something complex and just drop a Drake and get ahead. It's good stats. Also, you can get Ysera Awakens to just kind of, if you're up against, for example, something really big and wide, like, let's just say the clowns, right? He didn't have the buff on them. So you can kind of get past stuff like that, or even like play it and then drop a couple of rushes into other big things and really like take back the board. So it's just kind of all around pretty good. But yeah, also anything that will generate you cards when you don't have card draw is good.
Also, this probably goes in the combo territory, but Nightmare on Samoru is a board clear. It's so good.
Yeah, and also Crab Rider is pretty good.
Oh, yep. And then last one we talked about was Wormhole Challenger. Why is this a good card? This is like one of my favorite cards. Period.
The best
actually.
card in the game.
I love this card.
I mean, it's too many stats, and you can also not only is it super good in the early game just to clear something annoying. When your opponent, let's say you're up in the mirror, and he has a Sword Eater down and a Rokara, you can target that Rokara and kill it off. Right,
also,
so you can get past taunts with the effect, which is really good.
It's also just really good with conditioning, because like a 3/12 is great, and it works with Rokara when you have Rokara on board.
Yes, that was one of the combos that I wanted to talk about. It's so good, actually.
So
it's
let's
you can get just a beast.
Yeah, let's get in those combos. So there's the Rokara Wormhole combo.
That was kind of the big one that I never see. Yeah, that's the big one that I've never seen anybody play against me. So I played it myself, but I've never seen it being utilized before, which is kind of crazy. But then you have, of course, the bumper cars and Playmaker. Like, that's such a big one.
Playmaker enables a lot of this deck. And another one, which is a little more straightforward with Rokara, is Playmaker Rokara, because you get 2 Rokaras. Any minion that survives off that gets +2/+2.
Yeah, but I think that something that I just wanted to touch on with the bumper cars is that when you have the opportunity to get so many tokens, like you drop a bumper car and both of those bumper cars will give you minions back.
Yep.
That is kind of your version of card draw with this deck. So I kind of view that combo as almost like a card draw turn, if you understand what I'm saying.
No, I see exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, so that's where you really like reload your hand. But besides that, you know, we touched on the Blade Master, Samuro Nightmare, and also kind of the early 10th Thrasher combos. Do you think anything else?
I think we've probably touched on most of the combos. There's probably like little ones that we haven't talked about that do happen, but Playmaker is just enables so much value in this deck that if it didn't exist, I don't think this deck would be as good.
No, definitely not. It's so good. It's so good. And it's kind of a sharp minion for your opponent to clear if he wants to clear it with like a weapon. It's
yeah,
lots of power.
It also, like, it's so much harder to clear when it gets buffed too. Like, it becomes what, a 6/5 or more? Like, that's so good.
Yeah. But I think that's kind of about it for the vanilla, right?
Yeah, and to be honest, Watch Post isn't much different. The 5 cards we've switched out this time are, instead of the 2 Crab Riders, the 2 War Mauls, and the Narrowlax, we run Far Watch Post, which is the 2-drop, Morshan Watch Post, which is the 3-drop, and a second 10 Thrasher. I was telling Axel before this, 10 Thrasher is probably the main reason why I would play the post version, because a discountable 5-mana 5/5 is really good, and also it gets pulled more often off of Stage Dive. But I do think the posts are probably the best part of this deck.
So
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think so too. I haven't played it too much, but I've definitely I played like 20 games or something, and my win rate is definitely way higher with post, and I think it's a little easier to play as well, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, it just disrupts what your opponent's doing, and I think a lot of people will look at Far Watch Post, which when your opponent draws a card, it increases that card's cost by 1. That's just good. Like, any tempo-oriented deck, losing tempo, like if I play this on 2 and they're like, okay, I hope I get a 3. If I get, like, Sam against Rogue, and they're like, okay, I played this on 2, they draw Man-Crick, now Man-Crick costs 4, they can't play Man-Crick.
Yeah.
It's just really disruptive.
And it kind of puts you a little bit on the same level, since we as Rush Warriors lack card draw.
Yep.
You kind of punish their card draw, which is kind of nice.
I think one time I was playing against a Hunter. This might have been with a different deck, but it had Watch Post in it. And I just think posts are so interesting right now because they were in the meta for like a week and a half, and then they left the meta. So whenever I play a post, I see my opponent like cursor over it for like 30 seconds, like, what does this do?
Yeah.
And then like I think he misread it. He must have been like the first card you draw like during your draw phase. It was against the Face Hunter. They played Kodobane and drew 3 cards that all just got like, I was like, that's not the play, buddy. but
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, it's just, I think because they were just out of the meta for so long, people see them, they don't know what they do, and then they overreact.
Yeah. Also, this has happened to me a couple of times. You just drop the 2 post and they concede. They're like, I'm not gonna deal with this, which actually might be pretty bad because we might have kind of a priest situation going.
So I haven't had them auto concede to a 2 post. I did play against I think it was an alignment druid because they had Cthulhu, but the Cthulhu went off and I was on coin, so I coined out 2 posts, and then it was just like, I can see. I was like, perfect. I don't want to sit through that matchup whatsoever, so thank you.
Yeah. But kind of interesting. So actually, what do you like watch posts? Do you think it's a good card?
I think now they are fair. I think when they had, especially 2 and 3, well, the ones they got nerfed, when they had one extra health, it was pretty unhealthy for the game. Especially 3 posts, the Morshan, which I will talk about here in a second, because a lot of board-based decks can't exist if they can't kill a 3/5 or the 2/2 that comes out of it. So that was the issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, Morshan Watch Post, we just talked about it. Summons a 2/2 whenever your opponent plays a minion.
Yeah.
This is so good against Shaman and Hunter.
Yep.
Like, you just keep them off the board. That's essentially what these posts do. They disrupt what your opponent's game plan is, especially tempo-oriented decks, initiative-oriented decks. And just a 2/2 each turn, each time they play a minion, that trades favorably. If it doesn't kill a minion, your minions come in and clean it up, or your minions clean up the minion anyways, and your 2/2 goes face, and you just keep hitting them.
Yeah.
It's just good.
Yeah, it really fits well in the deck. As I said before, sometimes when your opponents, when they don't play cards and you can't rush into anything, it's really nice to just drop a watch post.
Yeah, I agree. And like when I talk about people overreacting, I was playing against a shaman one time. I dropped the 3-post. And then I actually backed it up with a sword eater, so they couldn't just hit it.
It's super smart.
They put a storm strike and a lightning bolt into it. So
you have to.
but they were running Doomhammer. That post sucked up 13 damage. That's how good they are, because like Storm Strike with Doomhammer is 10 damage and a lightning bolt. So that was just 13 damage it just ate. Like that's how good they are.
Yeah. And kind of the mind games. I don't even know how to react when somebody drops a watch post. I'm like, I'm just feeling like a big dum-dum. If I clear it, I put too many resources in this. If I don't clear it, I'm just going face. My opponent starts emoting, and I'm like, I just want to get out of here. This is too embarrassing. So, I don't know. It's just definitely, I think everybody needs some more experience dealing with the watch posts.
I think this is the last we'll kind of touch on this. But I do think it's good for players to know how to deal with posts. And the way I usually do it is just when you can. Because depending on your deck's game plan, posts can be either backbreaking or not that bad, actually. They seem a lot worse than they are. So if you can avoid dealing with it for a few turns, your cards may cost 1 more. They're never going to cost more than 10. And then you can kill them when you get the resources behind it. And you don't overreact to these unless your game plan depends on you developing board or having your cards cost a certain amount, like Druid. Like, if you're a Druid, get rid of that 2-post as fast as you can, but don't worry about the 3-drop watch post at all. Like,
makes sense, right?
Yeah. And the other card is Tent Trasher. We did talk about that. It's like my favorite card in the deck. I think it's one of the best cards in the deck. And the reason I would play Watch Post Warrior is not for the posts. It's for the second Tent Trasher. That's how good that card is to me.
Would you switch anything out for the Tent Thrasher in the vanilla version?
You could probably cut Narrowlax. Narrowlax is just a good card though. But I wouldn't put Narrowlax in the Watch Post version because it doesn't work the same. Like, you don't have the Crab Rider to Nightmare. So I wouldn't put Narrowlax in.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Like, it's just a good card. That's why it's there.
One thing I do want to say, and then we'll move on to the Sour Fang, and we'll just touch on that briefly, is the reason there's no... What's that? That's 7-drop that works with the watch posts.
Kargath.
Yeah, Kargath. He's not in this deck because he is too slow. That card does nothing. That card summons minions, and then you die because they don't have taunt or rush.
I just opened a pack with a Kargath in, so I'm gonna try it out instead of a Troublemaker. But now I might try it out instead of a Narlax.
Why would you cut Troublemaker? Is like the best card in the deck. Don't cut that.
I don't need to.
You too.
But yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna try it out. So I just wanted to take something off the top.
Okay. Well, you let me know how it goes. I know the original version actually did run the 7-drop. The person who made that, but then Vicious Syndicate cut it. It is a tech card on their website, so feel free to try it out. They say cut the Tent Trasher or the ETC if you want to try it out.
Now I kind of just want brooms if I'm gonna have Kargath in it. So I don't know. This might become a different kind of monster.
I think that you might not be successful with that, But you let me know how it goes, and if you break the meta, I'll start playing your deck.
Mark my words.
Before we start getting into the last little topic and wrapping up, I do want to just talk about the Sourfang version. So the Sourfang version, I think it cut Crab Riders, War Maul Challenger, and it did that for Overlord Sourfang, 2 of the Rush Pirates, the 5-mana 4/5s, Anchorman,
Yes.
and the Turtle, the legendary that came out in this last expansion.
Crash.
Yeah, Crush. And the reason for that was specifically for the Priest matchup. This was popular for 2 to 3 weeks when Priest was really popular because it gave you extra card draw and it let you kind of recreate resources with Sourfang. It was it's not as good. It was not, don't play this now whatsoever. Because Priest is not popular and it's not as good into your other matchups. It's too greedy. It's too slow. But it did exist. It allowed Rush Warrior to kind of adapt to a very hostile meta towards it because Priest just demolished Rush Warrior.
Yeah, and but it still has some things. You know, when you play, what's he even called? Like the big guy that the deck is based around.
Sourfang.
Sourfang. Yeah. So when you play Sourfang, he's gonna deal 1 damage to your minions. So if you it's gonna bring back minions, and then he's gonna deal 1 damage to them. So it works kind of good with Krish. So you get a bunch of more armor, and also you get some card draw from the pirates.
It was a deck to really counter the Priest, because if you ran out of resources, it let you kind of go a little longer and hope to run the Priest out of resources, then punch him a bunch in the face. But it was much worse against Face Hunter, Token Druid, just because it was too slow.
Yes.
So if you want to play, I think if I'll speak for Axel, I think we both kind of agree that the Watch Post is our favorite version, but I think you can have success with both versions.
Yeah. Best of all 4 is Kargath plus Brooms, right?
Oh yeah, so you cut, what do we cut? We cut the 2 10 Thrashers and Troublemaker for Brooms and Kargal.
There we go. Now it's your list. Now it's your responsibility.
I'm not crafting Kargal just to play that list.
Yep.
So usually we'd wrap up here, but because it's the end of an expansion, because the meta is winding down, we kind of wanted to reflect a little bit and discuss 2 or 3 of our favorite decks each from the previous expansion. Yeah. So, Axel, why don't you tell me what you thought of the Forged in the Barrens meta?
So the Forged in the Barrens meta, when the game got released, it was really strange. It was, I'm gonna say it, I don't speak negative, but I think it was bad. It felt like kind of an auto battler.
Yep.
And I even messaged you like the night that I got Legend in the first month of Fortune the Barrens, and I was like, I did this with Poison Rogue. It feels like an auto battler. If I queue into Libram Paladin, I lose. If I queue into Spell Mage, then I win. Yeah. So I wasn't too happy with it, but yeah, it's kind of it. It started out really, really, really bad.
It definitely had a false start, but as things went on, what did you think of it? Because we had a few nerfs that kind of leveled the playing field for other classes. What did you think of, like, after Deck of Lunacy got nerfed and the secret package and Paladin got nerfed? What did you think of it?
I think it was really good, and I think honestly, Fortune the Barrens is my favorite expansion this far.
Really?
But I think it's because this is where I really evolved a lot as a player.
Yeah, you were saying that before the show. Can you explain what you mean by that a little bit?
So yeah, kind of this expansion has been actually, like, there were a lot of complaints earlier that there were no board-based decks, but they really brought them back now. Paladin, like Libram Paladin, it's pretty board-based. Like Shaman now, and obviously Death Rattle Demon Hunter. It's a lot of board-based decks, and I think that in order to play these... Yeah, exactly. Obviously, like the topic. But in order to play these decks well, you need a good fundamental, like, understanding of the game. And I feel like practicing this a lot every single day, going up against these board-based decks, has been really healthy. And I have improved. I used to get legend like the 20th or the 15th every month. Now I get it on, I think recently I got it like on the 8th, and then I got it on the 3rd, and then I got it on the 4th.
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's definitely. But I've also played mostly tier 1 decks, so that's kind of helps me out.
I like tier 1 decks. I think they're fun. I don't always play like tier 1 decks. I usually find a deck that clicks with me, but it's never off meta click. It's always like, oh, this tier 2 deck I really like, I'm gonna keep playing that. But for me, yeah. I think well, I got legend very early on in Forge the Barrens with Spell Mage, which was it wasn't fun to get legend with that deck. It was just boring. Like,
I think we got it the same day, actually.
We were pretty close. I just remember getting it, and I was just like, I did not have fun doing that. It was really just aggravating and kind of stressful. And it was also because there were some personal, professional issues going on in my life that kind of like, I didn't take a big break, but I had to step away from Hearthstone for a little bit in content creation because of those. It's all good now. But I think that kind of hindered my enjoyment of the game. Like, it was also metas I didn't really love. Like, I did not love playing against, like, Secret N'Zoth Paladin or Libram Paladin. Like, those weren't fun for me. But then after Wailing Caverns came out, I really enjoyed this meta. I really kind of hit the ground running, playing a bunch of different decks, and I've just really enjoyed the last half of this. I am glad that it's about to be over because it did get kind of boring. We were talking before the show. I feel like I've seen all these decks before in some form or another. The only new real deck is Shaman because Shaman didn't exist before this for Wailing Caverns. But like, I've seen all these decks before in like some form or another.
Yeah, totally agree.
So before we log off, let's go through 2 or 3 of our favorite decks that we played this expansion. I'll let you start.
Yeah, I'm just gonna. Let's start off with the big one, Secret Libram Paladin. I really like to play that. I love Paladin. I like the class fantasy. It got nerfed, which is kind of jokes on me because people in my audience know that I crafted an entire golden version of Secret Libram Paladin.
Did you?
Yes, that will run you about like $300 or something.
Oh my gosh.
I had the dust. I didn't spend the money on it.
Good.
But yeah, so all golden. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's Paladin is very dear to my heart. It's one of my 1,000 plus wins.
Okay.
Yeah, so I really love Paladin. It feels cool because I really like the class fantasy.
Yeah.
My other deck is Token Druid. I went from, I think, 17 wins with Druid in this expansion to like 400. Only playing Token Druid. So, played a lot of Token Druid and also crafted a full golden version. Now both are nerfed. Good for me. Yeah, I think it's... no, it's alright. I was kind of ready for it. So, but yeah, I think Token Druid is really interesting. It was a deep deck. It's... people don't give it enough credit for being a combo deck because it's definitely not an aggro deck. Yeah. It's not super board based, even though kind of your burst will come from the board. But there was this kind of nice pattern in how you would play it, and there was a lot of kind of interesting plays when it came to floating mana, not spending mana. That was usually pretty good to kind of drop a nature studies and then like not doing anything until you can get something really good with a discount.
So you named like 2 of my least favorite decks, but
I'm gonna name the 3rd soon. Okay. So.
No, I just want to say like that's not a bad thing though. Like I think that's cool about Hearthstone is you can kind of customize and play what you want. Like I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's the 3rd one? Am I gonna like this one?
Yes. No. It's Poison Rogue.
Yeah. So I'm gonna end the Discord call.
Yeah. But the thing is, so basically, I think that Poison Rogue was really nice, and I think everybody should have tried it out because it was so narrow when it came to the strategy of the deck. Like the only thing you could do, or the only thing you ever should do, is hit the opponent in the face. And this really helped me kind of develop this mindset where I would look for lethal earlier. For example, in like Libram Paladin, which is very like board based, you can set it up and you can play it for a lot of value. However, I noticed that, okay, my opponent is on 9. Maybe I just drop a Hammer of the Narrow here, even though it feels kind of clunky, and then I kill him in 3 turns. And stuff like that. I kind of learned that by playing a lot of Poison Rogue in the beginning.
Yeah, I think that is one thing that I've learned in this expansion too. Like, I kind of touched on it a bit when I was playing a lot of Soul Demon Hunter, because you do have to kind of like set up like how am I doing this much damage? How am I setting up the most? How am I getting to the opponent's face next turn? Stuff like that. So I think that's a good thing that like all players can learn, but it's a really good one for decks that are more board based, that you're not bursting massive amounts of damage per turn.
Yeah, I agree.
So my 3 favorite decks. So yes. I would have put Rush Warrior on this list if we didn't talk about it. And if you asked me this like yesterday, it would be Clown Druid, because we've talked about Rush Warrior, and Clown Druid is not really a new deck. It got 2 new cards, and that was it this expansion. The first one I gotta say is Death Rattle Demon Hunter. I was not wrong about this deck when it was released. It was bad. Even after the buffs, still kind of bad. Better, but not good. But then after Wailing Caverns came out, when it got the Fell Rattle or it got the other 3-drop, it became a deck that was pretty good. And I think once I realized I'm not going to be able to play a deck like Soul Demon Hunter, where I'm just dealing massive amounts of damage per turn with Demon Hunter, I wrapped my head around this and started playing it. Really enjoyed it. I think it's well positioned right now. But I like Clown Druid, and Clown Druid devours that deck. But it's a fun deck to play because it feels so relentless. It just feels like your minions always do something.
Yeah, and I know a lot of lists doesn't run it, but the new ooze, like the ectoplasm that spawns an adventurer.
Yep.
When I saw that card, I told everybody that I know, I'm like, that's gonna be the best card of the expansion. That's gonna be the one that everybody's talking about. Turns out it wasn't, but it's still kind of good. Good Death Rattle support.
It's a pretty good Demon Hunter card.
Yeah, I thought it would be the best.
I only run one of those, though, in my version. I run Posts in my version, too. So that deck is a little more interesting. I'll drop that one in the description below. Should have said this at the top, so if anyone's still listening, all the deck codes will be in the description below. My second deck that I want to talk about is Hybrid Shaman, and that is the one where you are playing Doomhammer in the Elemental package, because it was kind of like Blue Demon Hunter in a way. You just made a big hammer and smacked him in the face a bunch of times with 10, 16 damage. It was just a lot of fun, and Elementals made it so you were a board-based deck, which I thought was really good. I think this expansion really taught me how to play more board-based than previous expansions did.
Yeah, I think that's really like the mantra of Fortune the Barrens.
And then the last deck, people are going to give me flack for this one, but Control Priest. I really liked Control Priest. The thing I liked about it, and I know it was not healthy for the game because of its play patterns, but the way that you kind of like discovered cards and used them to problem solve was a lot of fun. I didn't play it a ton because every game took 15 to 20 minutes, so
yeah.
But it was a fun deck to play. I'm glad it was nerfed because it really, like I said, it wasn't healthy for the game and what people were doing. But I think it was just something I enjoyed. I'm glad it's gone, and I'm glad we're going to get some Shadow Priest next expansion. But for the week that I played Control N'Zoth Priest, that was pretty fun.
Yeah, it is fun. I like it. Priest is it's cool. It's just kind of annoying that you can't really like predict what they're gonna have in their hand. Yeah, that's all for me.
That's the issue. Next year, Priest will look different, just like Demon Hunter will, because they're losing a bunch of the Discover cards, which is good. Kind of wish Renew healed for more than 3, but I understand why they're not doing that, because they don't really want Priest to be its current form going into the next expansion. But like I said, that one week where I was playing Cabal Acolytes, Wave of Apathies, Against All Odds, and Nazoth and Priest. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is.
So we're going to wrap up. So guys, thank you for watching. We're going to try to get this on audio services, but in August or September. I just kind of got to figure out how to do this.
Yep.
So it was a fun discussion with Axel. I hope to do it again in a few weeks. And
Definitely.
We're going to keep doing this. And thank you, Axel, for the borders and stuff for the video. It looks awesome. And guys,
Hey.
go follow Axel on Twitter and subscribe to him on YouTube. His links and my links will be in the description below. Thank you for watching. Axel, is there anything you want to say before we close out?
No, that's kind of it. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited about this podcast in the future, and I have never been unfairly Illusiad. That's it.
Most players at my rank don't really know how to Lucia properly, so it's good. I don't think I've been unfairly either. But yeah, we'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about the decks we're playing at the beginning of United and Stormwind.
Yes.
And then we'll be a little more focused after that, but because of new expansion, we're probably not going to focus on one deck in particular. So guys, thank you for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and we will see you all later.
Peace.